We are the Keyboard Samurai, a podcast focused on sharing insights to help those working in cybersecurity companies, be them technology or services. Each session, your host, Will Klusovsky, aka Will Clue, sits down with professionals in our industry to illuminate topics that will help your security biz, team, or self be better. Let's hack into it now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another exciting episode. Today, we are joined by the infamous, I guess, famous, Mr. Greg Schaffer. Greg, why don't you go ahead and tell us who you are and why we care?
My name is Greg Schaffer, and I've been in InfoSec, cybersecurity, IT for a long time. Been doing it for now. I'm in my 36th year, so I've seen some good stuff and some not such good stuff. But kind of grew up with what then became cybersecurity and information security, because back in the day, we didn't really have a concept of cybersecurity. It was just, let's keep things working, you know. And my main role in IT, I was a network person, so everything TCP/IP. In fact, when I started in networking, twisted pair Ethernet didn't exist, and IP was just kind of like a nebulous thing. We had a small thin net network, and
Token ring,
so.
Right?
We had that. We had serial connections as well too, and it was actually kind of a neat time to learn about some of this stuff. But anyway, so I progressed through my career and eventually, became director of network services at Middle Tennessee State, which then led into what was not called the CISO role, but was the de facto CISO role back then, and then left that to become the first chief of information security officer for the metropolitan government of Nashville and Davidson County. That's a mouthful, and I had 2 business cards for that entire title. And from there, I actually left government. I had all my jobs were some sort of government service until I left to join corporate in 2012. I became the security officer at a bank, of all places, and a nice change in career. I think you should shake up your career every few years and do something different. So it was a nice change of pace. And in 2017, I got the God nudge to do more with my talents. And that led me to the founding of vCISO Services, which I thought it was a good idea to name the company something descriptive for SEO purposes. So it wasn't, for those who thought that I didn't have an imagination, it's like, no. I thought about this. Trust me, and it worked pretty well. And here I am. So I've been doing that now. Got a small staff of folks and a good client base that I just love working with. And of course, on the side, you know me as the host of the Virtual CISO Moment. And if you don't know me as the host of the Virtual CISO Moment, then shame on you. Check out the podcast. Recently ranked number 1 out of the top 100 cybersecurity podcasts, according to Million Pop Podcasts, which I'd never heard of them before. So
right.
if somebody calls you number 1, it's good to talk about it. So I didn't 100%. Pay them. At least not.
No, that's the most important part too. With all the awards, you didn't pay for it. And the vCISO part's interesting because, like, I think the key point is it was before everybody else started using the term. I remember creating a vCISO security offering in, I don't know, maybe 2012, 2015-ish or so. Like, it was still pretty new. So
yeah. I mean, back then it was like I could go on my soapbox and talk about how the virtual CISO field is really saturated with folks that are vCISO enos, vCISO in name only. They don't really understand the concept of information security risk management, and I think that they're doing them their clients a bit of a disservice. But things evolve. It's obviously the virtual CISO space is something that was back then and is needed, and so it's still here. It's still evolving.
For sure. So, yeah. Well, that's actually a great transition into what we're going to chat about today. So, so you want to be an InfoSec consultant. I love the, for everybody knows that's the title, and that was Greg's title, and it's related to a new book. So I feel like I'm a journalist now, and I'm breaking the story, right?
You are breaking the story, and it's a book that's not out yet. But it's called So You Want to Be an Information Security Consultant. And the genesis of this was because I've been successful at being an information security consultant. I get folks that ask me, how do you become successful at being an information security consultant? And I'm like, well, you make a lot of mistakes, first of all.
For sure.
I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I did not do things the right way out the gate. But you learn from things, you adjust and all that. But in any case, got a lot of questions about that. And I got to the point where I'm like, well, this would make a good conference discussion. So every year, I don't know if I'm going to do one this year, but every year I would create like a topic to maybe pitch to a few conferences. And last year was, so you want to be an information security consultant, or maybe it was the year before. I don't remember which. And a few conferences accepted it. And so I went and I talked about it and got good feedback for it. And but usually conferences and the tracks that you have, you're usually limited to like 40 or 50 minutes of talking, because you have 10 minutes of audience questions and then 10 minutes to switch to the next venue.
Right.
And I've got a lot to say, and limiting me in 40 minutes is tough. And so what I did is I created a longer form video called "So You Want to Be an Information Security Consultant," again, and put it on my the vCISO YouTube channel. Which, if you want to find it, it's youtube.com/vCISO. It's very easy to find. I was lucky to get that I don't know what you call it, the
Shortcut
title, the
link
shortcut,
early,
yeah, something like that. But the idea was, okay, well, it's part of a series of like little mini videos, because I was doing mini videos at first before I came up with the idea of doing an actual presentation at a conference. So there's like 7 or 8 videos out there. The first 7 of them are real short, or 6, whatever it is, like 10, 15 minutes, I think. And then the last one is the long one, which encompasses probably most of what I say in the first one. So you can ditch the first ones and watch the long one. Long one. Well, during all of this, as you know, last year came out with 3rd edition of a book called Information Security for Small and Mid-Sized Businesses, which did quite well and kind of primed my writing pitch again. And I'm like, this year was going to be the year that I worked on the 4th edition, but I'm like, I kept on coming back to this information. So you want to be an information security consultant. And I decided, well, maybe that'd make a good book. But how do you get started with this? So what I did is I took the transcript of my YouTube video, and the long one, dumped it into ChatGPT and said, create for me a book structure with chapters and chapter summaries based on this talk. And
smart. Yeah.
It was amazing. It was like, you have now done the hardest thing for me, which is to try to get a structure. And so since then, it's like I've taken that structure and I've been working on it more and more and adding topics to it. That's part of the problem I have, is I keep on having more things to say. So, I'm about 28,000 words in. I don't know where it's going to land at. 40 sounds like a good cutoff point. I don't want to make it excessively long, because nobody wants to read something that's long like that. But I want it to be helpful to folks. But anyway, I could go on and on and on, but I'm not going to. Right?
It's a great peek behind that. So, and I love using. To me, that's the perfect way to use AI. I use it all the time for anything I do, for marketing, sales enablement, content. Like it's a great way to get all of the noise out of my head. I can just,
it kind of primes the pump,
vomit into GPT and be like, can you organize this for me? And they're like, gotcha.
AI vomit.
Well, because that's what he said when I'd work with marketing teams, like that was my process. I'd be like, okay, what topic do you need me to write about? And I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to do my word vomit, which is literally, I'm going to sit in front. I'm just going to type everything that comes out of my head. And then a day later, I can come back and start to organize it. But now you can just drop that into GPT and be like, can you organize this? And then I know where to go from there. So it's a huge time saver.
Oh, it's great. It's great. But you're telling the you're telling the what is it, Skynet, that
Oh
all
yeah,
of your
for sure.
secrets and all that, so they'll know how to get to you, I guess.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of robots doing everything for us so we don't have to work. I mean, I'm kind of looking forward to the day when we just all live on permanent vacation and the robots do all the work. I don't know. I guess it's another topic. So,
Well,
so without giving away too much that's in the book, so everybody reads it. So like, so when you think about, you want to be an InfoSec consultant, I guess, what are the first couple things that come to mind for anybody listening, whether they're already in it or just want to get better or trying to break in or want to learn from your mistakes so they don't make them?
Well, yeah. Everybody needs to understand that this is a business, and the book is not focused on anything really specific to information security. You could take probably 85% of what I'm writing and apply it to other disciplines, but information security is my discipline, and there are some things specific to it, such as things that you need to look out for if you're a penetration tester, for example. You want to have an adequate scope in your contract before you go through an engagement and all that. You want to make sure this is all written down. You never want to have something that is kind of like just talked about. You want to write down everything, but
100%.
that's really the whole focus of the book, is that I'm trying to take people through some of the things that they may not have thought about when they thinking about becoming an information security consultant. And when I say consultant, I don't mean someone who is got that job title as a W-2 employee somewhere. I mean, you're going out on your own. And I think one of the first mistakes is people just not realizing the incredible necessity of doing some basic fundamental things, and forming an LLC, getting liability insurance, making sure you have a separate finances, because you want to keep it all separate. And it may sound like overkill, even if you just got one client that you make, a few thousand a year on or something like that. But it's a cost of doing business. And then another thing is talking about cost of doing business, the tax implications, because you don't have an employer paying in half of your Social Security, for example. So you have to pay more tax, and you have to pay it quarterly. If you're, I'm talking about here in the United States, but I imagine most countries have something similar that you have to do. So I think that the primary thing to understand is that whether you like the term entrepreneur or not, if you start to do this, you are one. And you could be the best pen tester, CISO, CIO, whatever, and really be a horrible, horrible consultant because you don't realize these things.
Yeah.
So that's probably the first thing I would think of.
That's interesting. And as for me, as somebody who consults with security companies or people that are want to be consultants, like I've had clients who are, well established, significant client lists, and then I go in and look at T's and C's and structure. Like, we're having problems getting payments and we're having problems with scope creep. I'm like, well, because you didn't do your sales properly, right? You didn't think about how it's great that you want to over deliver for the client, but like, you need to get paid. And you need to get paid for the work you do.
And that's another thing too. And and actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't know if I've explicitly mentioned this yet in the manuscript, but don't give away your time.
Yes.
And a lot of times, I know it sounds simple, but a lot of times you'll scope something, you'll say, okay, this engagement's going to be 20 hours a month. And you really want to make a good impression. And so you put like 40 or 50 hours in that first month. Well, first of all, you're not getting paid for that. And second of all, you're setting the expectation bar too high.
Very much.
And I would say, as a corollary to that, if you feel that you need 40 or 50 hours to show 20 hours worth of good work, you might not want to be a consultant. You might not be ready for that yet.
Right.
You have to be very, very, very protective of your time. People will come to you and ask you for some free advice as well too. And it's like, at some point in time, you have to, okay, that'll be $300 an hour, 3-hour minimum. You just have to get to the point of, like, the emphasis on that is saying, I'm protecting my time because it's the most valuable resource we have. It's not renewable. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because I think about, like, I still do that to this day, 25 years into the industry. When I'm looking at scope and I'm like, well, I'm going to need X amount of research time hours, and I'm going to need time to vet this and do that. And clients don't always, they're like, oh, I'm looking for this outcome. And they don't realize a lot of the work that goes into it. And, I'm a big fixed fee fan. Like, here's what it is. Like, I'm
Right.
going to take the risk so that I feel more comfortable with, like, if I want to invest more time in this aspect or not, to give you what I think is worth an X amount of dollar product. But you don't want to be doing I'm going to spend 60 hours to get 20 hours to make it look like 20 hours of work. So I think a lot of that for me is educating your client on what they're actually getting and what goes into it. And it's not it is a sales tactic, but also it's not. I mean, our job as consultants is to educate. And so many people, especially in the SMB market, don't understand what goes into it. And when they see the big price tag, they're like, well, what am I getting for that? You have to explain it sometimes.
Yeah, you have to be able to articulate that. And in order to be able to articulate it, you have to understand it. And I think that that's part of the self-education process, starting down the consultant path. At least it was for me. You mentioned about mistakes. Well, one of the mistakes that I made early on was I didn't scope out a risk assessment properly. And so, I mean, I don't remember exactly what the numbers were, but let's just say in my mind, I figured this would take 40 hours. I think it was like 40 hours, and I ended up spending like 80 or 90 hours on it. And that's okay. I didn't mind eating it because I was also client hungry at the time, which is another topic. Um, but I all of this stuff, like in the background that you were talking about, it's planning it and scoping it and doing the research, and all of that has to come into play. But the other thing that often clients don't understand is, well, you talk about the why is this so expensive? Well, you're getting a deliverable, but what you're really paying for is the experience.
Hmm.
And that's why when you have, I get back to the vCISO type thing and name only. That's why it's so important. And I use vCISO as an example for consulting, and this could be for any other InfoSec consultant discipline. But if you have someone who just decides to call themselves a virtual CISO, and they have, like, say, 3 years of experience as an InfoSec analyst, you're not bringing the same product. No matter how good you can write reports, and no matter how good the tools are that you're using and all that, you're just not bringing the same thing. Even if you're really good and you had similar skill sets, information security is so much about risk management, and so much of that is based on, I'm sorry, but these things here, white hairs, being old, getting that experience, and and being able to apply it. That's ultimately what they're paying for.
Right.
So I often say, it's, I think, a truism in any part of information security consulting: you get what you pay for. So if you're a business and you want to go cheap on your pen test, have right at it. You might end up getting something like one client a few years ago that I started with as a vCISO. They presented to me as part of Discovery their latest pen test, which was an open VOS scan that was misconfigured. It was configured to Discover based on ICMP, and the client had ICMP blocked, so it wasn't going to find anything. But the write-up, it's like, we ran this and we spent 3 or 4 days, trying to get in, and we're happy to tell you that we have found no vulnerabilities on your network, and all this BS, excuse my language. And who suffered there? The
Yeah.
client did, because it's like they went low, most likely, on the bid process, got someone who could type in a few things on a green bone scan, and got what they paid for. And ultimately, when we came in, if we were using the same tool, we're like, oh, here's the same tool, and look at all these high and critical vulnerabilities you have that you didn't know about for the last 12 months because you went cheap.
Just misconfigure. Yeah. Well, and it's funny. Because, like, I think one, you could get lucky. right? You could find that person, that one thing.
You could.
But you know, that's needle in a haystack. But it's the same as any other industry. Like if I want a, you know, a custom made dining room table from a woodworker, and you know, I want to buy it really cheap, that person probably isn't going to have the experience and be able to do it right. And I might get what I want, I might not, you know, unless you get like, or any again, there's anything else, you know, the experience to take. And I remember myself, you know, when I was young in my days, like I was always like, I'm going to be a CISO, I'm going to be a CISO. And I always felt like I could do the job like that day. And 100%, somebody could have put me in the role and I would have been able to do the job. I don't know how well I would have been able. Looking back at it now, all the things I didn't understand about the business, you know, things I didn't understand about, you know, like knowing security wasn't enough at that level, right? And I think that's, at least in the CISO side, what people understand. And then going in the consulting world, again, a whole other thing. Like just, you can't just, like you could be the best pen tester in the world. And I've seen people do this. A good friend of mine, really, really smart GRC guy, no tact, will walk right in and see everything wrong with the company as he's walking through the door, like all the rest of us do, and then tell the client to their face, your baby's ugly, like in meeting one. And like, you can't do that. You're not going to win that business. I mean, 1 out of 100 times you'll win that business, but a lot of times you're just going to piss off the client.
Well, I was like that in my earlier days. I think we can all say that we were, but you know, talking about the experience. So, spooling back probably like 20 odd years, where I'm the director of network services at this university, and they're getting ready to build a new building, and it was our campus network standard that all fiber optics between buildings, major buildings, would be in conduit and then encased in concrete, because you know the concrete was usually colored. If you had the backhoe come, the chance of being able to cut it and cause a disruption was low. And it was something like the cost of doing it encased in concrete versus direct bury was something like $7 an hour versus $1 an hour at that time. And the CFO of the university said, we are not spending that much money on this. And I remember my attitude was like, it's not my fault if this thing gets cut.
Right.
Because I'm the network guy and I know I'm the expert here. I'm the network guy. It's either on or off. And it's like, you're not doing what I say that you're supposed to do. And the CFO, I wasn't arguing with him, but I was arguing with other people out of earshot. But he was just like, you know what? I mean, the reason why we're not going to do it in concrete is because, look, they're not going to dig there for like the next decades. It's just not going to happen. It's not worth the risk, the return on you don't have a large cost exposure. These are words and concepts I had no idea about. And guess what? 25 years later, they've never dug there, because there was not part of the campus master plan, which I didn't know about at the time, was that there would be no building in this area. So he understood more about making a risk-informed decision that, I'm sorry, for the most part, if you're at like the 35-year-old, that's about where I was, 30, 35 years old, and you're in your career, you've been in for like 10, 12 years, something like that. You haven't developed that yet. You really haven't developed that risk management mindset. And to try to make those blanket statements of like, it's not my fault if it gets cut, or, you know, your baby is ugly. It's like, boy, that's awfully, I don't know, kind of pompous.
Yeah, pompous. That's the kind of way.
It's
I think most of us at that age, that's how we are. It's like, well, we know what's right, and that's, I think, the biggest thing in security.
And these idiots up there who count the beans and pay me, by the way, they don't know anything, you know.
I think that's important, because I always tell people, because I get a lot of folks who are, you know, in that stage that are looking to like get to the next level, especially the executive level. Hey, Will, how'd you do it? What do you know? And I'm like, well, do you know the business? Do you know how the company makes money? Do you know how to make decisions based on finance? Do you understand that like what you say is not the right way? Like there is no right way. The right way is what the business decides, and that you have to get away from that mindset of like, I know how to do it. Well, yeah, you do, but it's not your decision to make.
And then when you wrap this all back, it comes home, because remember what I said about being an independent consultant, you're a business person first and foremost. And if you don't understand or care about business concepts, you're not going to succeed. There's a lot of people out there that think that they can just go down the consulting path and it's like easy money. It's money. It ain't easy.
Yeah. And if it is easy for you, you may not be doing it right. I don't know. Let's
or ethically.
Or yeah, that's the thing. Well, Greg, we probably need to do a second session here. I think maybe we need to
I can't believe it's been like
part two.
over 20 minutes already that we've been like chatting about this, but yeah, no, I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, cool. Let's put some more time on the books. In the meantime, where can everybody find you on the interwebs? And I'll put it down in the descriptions on the YouTube and stuff.
Probably the best place is on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, so just look for Gregory Schaffer is my handle. I guess that's the word I was looking for before. You can also find the Virtual CISO Moment on Spotify and iTunes, and also go out to the YouTube channel, the vCISO YouTube channel, because out there not only do you have every episode of the Virtual CISO Moment, but also some of these other things that I produced over the years. And if I have an idea, sometimes I like to just do a random video, and put it out there. I got presentations out there from different conferences over the years and all that as well too.
Awesome. So, thank you so much. It's been great chatting with you as always.
Thanks. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks for enjoying Keyboard Samurai Podcasts. If you'd like to engage, find Will on LinkedIn at /WillClue or visit at willclue.me. That's WILKLU.me for more info. Disconnecting now. Synac you later.